I think that in the military, there's a sort of way in which we train, which is you go to a place, you go to sort of Lympston for the Royal Marines, you go to Sandhurst if you're an army officer, and you go through a kind of a period of training. And then there's a huge amount of also kind of on-the-job training. And I think that it's the kind of on-the-job training that is most helpful to kind of other people, or I guess more easily translatable into the sort of into the other world, into any other world really. Because if you think about it, like, you know, what is it you've kind of been asked to do, or what is it you're about to do? If you can detach yourself from the outcome and sort of think about, how do I need to prepare? How do I need to behave in order to kind of get the outcome that I want? Then what you can start to sort of do is go, well, how do I create the feedback loops that sort of lead to a good outcome, if that makes sense? So like, for example, and this requires a sort of slightly different kind of way of thinking about things. I've, again, found it really helpful to be really clear on the difference between my performance and my personality. So lots and lots of people, for example, in order to get good at anything, you have to invest a certain amount of yourself in order to deliver a sort of good performance. So chances are, when you went through university and you were studying music, you invested huge amounts of your time, your energy in becoming a musician. Now, that will take you to a really good level of performance. But if you want to go from good to great or great to world class, you need to be able to divorce the two concepts apart. And you need to be able to detach yourself from almost the kind of performance on the day, so that you can actively seek, but also listen and take on board and invite the feedback that others have. And I think that the way in which you kind of do that is if you sort of treat everything that you do as kind of like an experiment. So yeah, you absolutely work your ass off. You try your hardest to make sure that the recital of performance that you're going to do, or the leadership workshop or the coaching session, is as good as it can be. But the moment you sort of start it, you detach yourself to go, it's an experiment. It's not the finished product. It can always be better. Others are going to have a perspective of it. That's about my performance, but my personality remains intact. So for example, we could finish this call and I could say, you know, how was all that? And you could say to me, yeah, it was kind of, you kind of missed the mark with some of the things that you were talking about, or your answers weren't clear as maybe they should have been. But I can invite that feedback and hopefully take it and go, right, yeah, fair enough. I can sort of see that perspective. I can understand that. When I open the door to my study and I go and see the dog, or when my children come home from school, they don't see any of that. They don't see what I've done all day. They see me for the person I am, and they see me for my kind of personality. And again, in terms of ideas that are helpful to think about, I found it really helpful to think about your work and everything you do as an experiment. You should be seeking perfection, but understanding that you kind of never get there, that everything you do can be improved upon, but your personality is totally separate. The way in which your family interact with you, that's all about your kind of personality. That remains intact. And often when I'm sort of working with people, and I'm sort of, you know, going to give them some feedback, or I'm going to say, look, I'm going to challenge you, and I'm going to give you some difficult messages, because I believe that you have the potential to meet what I consider to be really high expectations. My expectations of you are really, really high. However, here's the thing. Personality, performance. You're a good bloke. I like you. I'm sure other people do. I'm sure when you go home, your wife wants to see you, all these kind of things. If they don't, then that's a different problem. But ultimately, my job is to kind of give you some feedback and help you get better at your performance. And when you say those kind of things, people go, okay, I'm now ready to sort of receive that message. I'm now ready to kind of think about that, reflect on it, consider your points of view, realize that it's one point of view, but equally, if I'm getting lots of very similar points of view or lots of similar feedback, maybe I need to do something differently. And again, that's kind of something that I sort of found really helpful.